Think about how many online accounts you have. Your email account, streaming services, e-wallet accounts, student portal, social media, e-commerce, and many more. According to a survey by Google, 65% of people reuse the same password across multiple accounts. Meaning a single leak password does not just expose one account. It exposes all of them. Here's why that is dangerous. If an attacker gets your password from one leaked database, say a gaming site that got breached, they will immediately try that same password on your email, your university account, your bank. This is not hypothetical. It happens millions of times every day. In this video, we are going to walk you through exactly how authentication works under the hood, what multi-factor authentication is, how attackers target your account, and the specific steps you can take today to protect yourself, as well as the key takeaways from this video.
Let's start by breaking down what authentication actually means. Authentication is simply the process of proving you are who you claim to be. Before any system decides what you are allowed to do, read your emails, access your bank balance, submit an assignment, it first needs to verify your identity. That verification is authentication. Authentication factors fall into three categories. The first is something you know, your password, PIN, or security question. It is the most common factor but also the most vulnerable because knowledge can be guessed, fished, or leaked into breach. The second thing is something you have, a physical object like your smartphone running an authenticator app or a hardware security key. Even if someone steals your password, they cannot log in without physically possessing this second item. Secure, but it is easily lost or misplaced. The third is something you are, biometric, your fingerprint, facial recognition, or voice recognition. Convenient, but with one important limitation. If biometric data is ever compromised, you cannot change your fingerprint the way you would change a password. Here is something most users never think about. How does a website actually store your password? If it keeps it as plain text and your database were hacked, every password will be instantly exposed. What responsible systems do is hash your passwords. System will pass a password such as Apple through a hash function, which is a one-way mathematical operation that turns your password into an unintelligible fixed-length fingerprint. The original password cannot be recovered from it, but hashing alone has a weakness. Attackers build rainbow tables, massive pre-computed lists that map common passwords to their hash values. If a password is something predictable, they do pick up and find it in a second, or they may launch a brute force attack. The fix, a process called sorting. Before hashing, the system adds a unique random value, the sort, to your password. Since every user gets a different sort, two people with the same password end up with completely different hashes. Rainbow table attacks become useless. Now let's move to the multi-factor authentication and access control. Multi-factor authentication, or MFA, combines two or more of the previously mentioned authentication factors. The most familiar form is entering your password, then confirming a time-based code from an authenticator app. Why does this change everything? Because even if an attacker has your password, they still cannot access your account without the second factor. It is one of the most effective things you can enable. Common MFA methods include SMS one-time passwords, time-based code for authenticator apps like Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator, push notifications, and hardware security keys. Authenticator apps are more secure than SMS because SIM swapping attacks can intercept text messages. They cannot intercept a locally generated TOTP code. If we recall, authentication answers, "Who are you?" but the system also needs to ask, "What are you allowed to do?" This is access control. The reference monitor model sits between you and every resource. It checks whether your identity is permitted to access what you are requesting every single time. The principle of least privilege sits at the heart of this. Every user should only have access to exactly what they need, nothing more. If your account is ever compromised, this privilege limits how far an attacker can reach with it.
Understanding how authentication works is only half the picture. Let's look at how attackers actually try to break in. Brute force is the most straightforward attack, trying every possible combination of characters until the correct password is found. An 8-character lowercase password has around 200 billion combinations. That sounds enormous, but dedicated cracking hardware tests billions of guesses per second. An 8-character password can be cracked within minutes. Every additional character multiples the search space exponentially, which is why length matters so much more than complexity alone. Attackers rarely guess randomly. Dictionary attacks use curated lists of common words, phrases, and previously leaked passwords. The Rockdale breach of 2009 exposed 40 million plain text passwords. That list is still embedded in cracking tools today, such as John the Ripper. If your password is a real word, a name, or follows a pattern like a capitalized word followed by a year, it will appear in this list and be cracked almost instantly. Credential stuffing is the attack most directly relevant to you. When a major service gets breached, such as LinkedIn in 2012, which lost 170 million credentials, those username and password pairs get published online. Attackers feed them into automated tools that try every pair across hundreds of other websites at once. If you reuse password, a breach on one side unlocks everything else. This runs fully automatically and at massive scale. Finally, password spraying flips the brute force approach. Instead of many attempts on one account, which triggers logout, the attacker tries one very common password like password 12345 across thousands of different accounts simultaneously. Each account only sees one failed attempt, so no logout is triggered. It is slow, quiet, and difficult to detect.
Now that you understand how the attacks work, the countermeasures are going to make complete sense. Here are some things that you can do starting today. Have I Been Pwned at haveibeenpwned.com is a free service that checks whether your email address has appeared in any known data breach. You can see exactly which services were breached, when, and what data was exposed. Furthermore, the site uses a technique called K-anonymity, meaning your input is never stored or tracked. It is completely safe to use. If your email shows up in a breach, change that password immediately and change it on every other account where you use the same password. This is not optional. A leaked password that you have not changed is an open door. Now let's see it in action. Firstly, open any browser on any device. Next, type in haveibeenpwned.com. Now, at the input box, type in your email. We will be using example@gmail.com for this demonstration. Next, press check. As you can see, this email appeared in multiple data breaches. Scrolling down further, we can see even more data breaches where the information of this email was exposed. The next step you can do is check your password strength with Bitwarden's password strength checker. Let's get right into the demonstration. Similarly, open any browser on any device, then type in bitwarden.com/password-strength. Now we can test some passwords. Let's start with a weak one, like secure password. Let's add some numbers. See, it is considered very weak and it will be easily cracked. Now, let's add some character variations. It's slightly stronger now, but not strong enough. Let's test by adding some symbols. Now it's very strong and will take centuries to crack. From the demonstration, you can see that easy passwords such as secure password falls instantly. Ideally, a password should be 16 characters or more with high complexity. Now let's see what a real secure password looks like. For this, we will be using Bitwarden's password generator. Again, we'll be using our browser and heading to bitwarden.com/password-generator. So let's set the parameter. This is what a proper password looks like. Random, long, and unique. However, it is difficult to remember so many of them. Therefore, better yet, we can use a password manager. A password manager such as Bitwarden lets you set just one strong master password, and the manager generates and stores a unique random password for every site you use. The vault is encrypted end-to-end. Even Bitwarden itself cannot see your passwords, and only you can decrypt it with your master password. Finally, enable MFA on every account that offers it. But start with your email account first, as it is often the master key to everything else. Password reset links go there, MFAs are tied to it, and many sensitive information are stored in your email. If an attacker controls your email, they can reset their way into every account tied to it. Control your MFA and snoop in your private life. To set up MFA on your Google account, firstly, open your browser. Then, navigate to myaccount.google.com. Then, sign in if you are prompted. Then, select Security and Sign In at the side panel. Now, click two-step verification. You may be prompted to enter a password here. Now, you will see the various options to add a second or more steps of verification before being able to access your Google account. Choose one that suits you best. Generally, use an authenticator app rather than SMS whenever possible, as authenticator apps generate codes locally on your device and cannot be intercepted by SIM swapping attacks. Password security is not a one-time task. Regularly check "Have I been pwned" every few months and set a reminder if you need to. When a service you use announces a breach, change that password within the same hour, not the next week. Enable login notifications on your important accounts so that you are alerted immediately if someone logs in from an unrecognized device or location.
Now that you are all caught up, let's bring everything together. Authentication is how systems verify who you are, through something you know, something you have, or something you are. Passwords are stored as salted hashes, not plain text. MFA adds a second layer that blocks attackers even when passwords are stolen. And attackers use brute force, dictionary attacks, credential stuffing, and passwords spraying to get in. Most of which work because of password reuse and weak choices. Starting today, install a password manager like Bitwarden, which was shown earlier to help you create, store, and manage your passwords for every account. 2. Enable MFA on your most important accounts or any account that offers it. 3. Check "Have I been pwned" with your email and act on what you find. Your passwords are the first line of defense between you and hackers in the digital world. They protect your money, your academic records, your private messages, and your identity online. The tools to protect them are free and take minutes to set up. There is no good reason to wait. Thanks for watching.